All right, folks, here we are for another session of Off the Grid. My next guest is a music producer who hails from the U.S. state of Oregon. Welcome to music producer Luvjonez. Hey, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you. How's it going out there?
Good. Thank you for having me. Pretty chill, overcast like usual, Pacific Northwest, but good.
Hey, real quick, let's start with just an introduction of yourself. Tell us where you were born, where exactly in the in the West Coast you call home, and tell us how long you've been making music.
Yeah, so right now I'm based in Portland, Oregon, but I'm originally from Kentucky, born and raised there, and I moved all over the place. So I went from Kentucky, Wisconsin, DC, New York, and then out here. So bounced around, but I've been here for almost 10 years. So
Oh, wow.
uh, yeah, so currently that's pretty much home now. And
Yeah.
then yeah, and making music. I mean, I've been making it my whole life, but I didn't really start releasing anything until about 2010.
Okay.
Um, yeah, is that did I cover everything?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And so, did you move over there for work, or was it family out there, or just a
uh,
good place to be?
yeah, I think it was like a distant memory when I was a kid. We came out to Bend, Oregon for a funeral, and I remembered it being really green out here. Um, but there was really no opportunity to come out here. I spent most of my life on the East Coast and Midwest stuff, so and
Yeah.
in the South. But yeah, it was for work back in 2014. I was
Okay.
working for a website company called Squarespace, and they opened an office out in Portland.
Nice.
Um, so I moved out here to help them start that office out,
Yeah, and
and then just stayed.
it's a good place to be for music too, man. Portland is awesome for music.
Yeah, no, that's been great. It took me a minute to kind of find the hip hop stuff, but I researched a lot before I moved out here, and happened to live like 6 blocks from a pretty active venue when I first moved here, so that helped a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got quite an extensive catalog of just beats in general. And so I'm curious, man. I want to take it back to day one, in terms of where you were first exposed to music. So what were your parents bumping back in the day?
Yeah, no, I love that question. I was like, it made me think, but I had to really like separate my how my parents listen to music because my dad was very like, anti-war folk music and a lot of
Okay.
stand-up comedy.
Yep.
And then my mom was more like R&B, Motown, some pop stuff and rock stuff, but yeah, they were like distinctly different, but my mom kind of kept through. She was like more contemporary, and my dad was very like throwback.
Yeah, but I can see the emo behind both genres, and so and you get this sound that I just freaking love, man. This soulful sound that you capture real well in your beats, and not a lot of people do that well, and you can do that consistently. So
Oh,
thank
thank
you,
you.
mom and dad, man. Right?
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, good, man. So with that, hey, you then eventually developed your own taste in music, and so what was it, man? What sparked your interest in hip hop rap music?
Um, well, hip hop in general was definitely introduced to me through the Four Elements. Like
Okay.
my cousin was a graffiti writer, and I met him when I was for the first time when I was 10. We had I had most of my family's from New York and moved there from Puerto Rico, but like uh I went out with him one night when I was like 10 years old. He took me out to all these different bombing spots in New York, and I was just like and I was
Awesome.
like yeah, and I was like hooked. I was like, "Oh wow, this is wild. The energy is crazy. There's people, dancing in the subway." And uh it just really sparked something for me, and then came back to Kentucky and wanted to do my version of that because we had no access to any of that stuff. So, um, yeah, I started as a terrible graffiti writer, just not even a writer. I'd say an artist because I was mostly just making drawing stuff on the sides of buildings. Um, but the music was always with me. It was always kind of what sparked the energy for me. So um, I didn't really get into making it till later, but yeah.
Yeah, and who were some of your favorites in terms of who'd you like to listen to in your younger days?
Um, I think oddly enough, my entryway into the music was turntablism. Like
Okay.
I still love scratch. So
Yes.
like to me, discovering like Invisible Scratch Pickles and like the Beat
Yeah.
Junkies and Executioners and like all those, I just love it to this day, and I can't really articulate why it is because I'm not a DJ. I mean, I do DJ, but I don't scratch. I'm not a scratch DJ.
Yeah.
Um, but that was like my entryway into discovering the underground too. So like um DJ Shadow, DJ Crush, DJ Honda,
Oh yeah.
all the E stuff. But because where I grew up in Kentucky, I was really drawn to Outkast and Goody Mob and stuff like that because that was
Nice.
the closest uh accessible, like relatable rap to my region, and I really
Okay.
liked what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, were there any standout albums that were fundamental in your becoming of a producer? Just some that you just popped the tapes off, or just spun the heck out of those CDs, man. Do you recall any of those key albums?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is the so many bootlegs of like Scratch Pickles stuff, like
Oh man, yeah,
yeah, like
yeah, yeah.
all their like Sugar Fragger shows and all this like nonsense stuff that they were doing. It was really hard to keep track of, but it was like that was fun. DJ Shadow's first album, Introducing, was really pivotal for me. It was like it transformed how I thought about beats. Like it didn't have to be the instrumental to a rap song. It could just be purely instrumental. Um, what else? So D Styles Phantasmagoria. I don't know. I never really meet too many people that have listened to that outside of the scratch community, but that was a big one. Uh, Portishead Dummy, their
Nice.
first album. Uh, Outcast, AT Aliens, and Aquemini was
Oh man.
those two were good. Tribes, Midnight Marauders, and then Liquid Swords. I could kind of rattle off a million, but like there was
Yeah.
just so many that were like doing the types of production that I just was, I just fell in
Yeah.
love with it.
Oh man, those are a great list of albums for sure. And outside of rap, man, when you're not listening to rap music, what other genres of music do you like?
Yeah, it kind of ranges from everything. Despite growing up close to Nashville, I am not a country music person at all. Like I just can't listen to it anymore. I think they ruined that for me when I was a kid, but I am into like probably not surprisingly mostly instrumental stuff. So I love jazz, a lot of like post rock instrumental droning rock music stuff like
Yeah.
um R&B, some punk and metal stuff because I have some friends that do that, so I just kind of drift in and out of that world.
Nice.
And a lot of soundtracks. Yeah, a lot of like scores to films and stuff like that.
Nice, man. And in terms of just music production in general, being a producer, you mentioned some big ones, Honda and DJ Shadow. Any other producers that really stuck out to you or really influential as you went on your road to becoming a producer?
Yeah, I had to kind of like check my list because it's pretty long, but like
Yeah, yeah,
there's DJ Premier was always pretty
man.
at the
Yeah,
core of almost everything I looked into. It got to the point where like him and Pete Rock, everything they put out, even if they contributed one track to somebody's album, I would check it out. Um,
yeah.
and then Dilla for sure I like constantly revisit his catalog of stuff because he was prolific way before Donuts, but at Donuts was huge too.
Yeah.
Jake One, out of like Seattle. He did a
Yeah.
bunch of stuff that I still check for him a lot. Um, High Tech, from like a Reflection Eternal.
Yeah. Talib
Uh,
Kweli. Yeah.
yeah, early Raucous stuff. I love his production too. Very minimal, but I really liked that. Alchemist, DJ Muggs, Odyssey, from like the mellow music group out of
Yeah.
DC. I really like his stuff too. So
Man, and so what was kind of the catalyst for pushing you to make beats? What was that moment where you were like, I'm gonna try to make beats?
yeah, no, I love that. Some of these questions are really fun to like remember the
Yeah.
origins of a lot of this stuff. But for me, it was, I had a good friend, when I lived in Wisconsin. Reconstructo was his producer name.
Oh, that's
Um,
a dope name.
yeah, he uh, but I remember, like I would meet people who said they made beats, and I would listen to their stuff, but like I was never like, "How did you make that?" It was more just like, "Oh, I see the vibe you're on." But when I met
Yep.
him, he was very much influenced by Premier and Pete Rock, and was really good with bass lines. And I remember I sat in his car and listened to the stuff he was making because we were both at a friend's house, and he mentioned he was a producer, and I like sat there and I was like, "You made this?" And I was like, "Where do you live here? Can I like come watch you make this?" Uh, and he was like, "Just down the street." So he was like, "Yeah, just come over whenever." And I came by and would like just sit in his room while he made stuff and watch him make it and talk about music. And it was just like, for me, I thought, for whatever reason, equipment always felt elusive to me. Like I never thought I could
Yeah.
afford it or even know how to use it, because I didn't know. Even if I got it, I didn't think I knew anyone who could teach me how to make what I wanted to make.
Oh,
So when I
interesting.
met him, I was just like, "Oh, you make the stuff I want to make." Uh, and so he eventually had a spare MPC. He was fixing it for somebody, and he let me
Yeah.
use that. And he was like, "Use it all you want." Um, and so that way I didn't have to like hog his, like show me how to use it on your machine.
Yeah.
So I did that, and that just got me hooked. Trying to construct a beat from scratch, and I was just like, "Oh man, you open the floodgates with that."
Yeah.
So
So right at the start, it was an MPC.
yeah.
Man, already the Jedi level. And do you remember any other programs that you were using at the start?
Yeah, there was a few like again bootleg stuff off the internet, but I was like,
Yeah.
there was like a weird wave editor program called Sound Studio
Okay.
that was
I don't know
super. Yeah, it was like I've literally never met anyone else who have never heard of that
that.
program, but it was like this, a free download where you could like multi-track stuff. Um, and I think it was used to like master audio, or like rip audio from vinyl or something like that. But
I see.
I didn't. So I don't know that I was even using it correctly. But it's just I learned how to like stack layers of songs in the program, and then I was like, I know there's a better way to do this. But um, so yeah, that's what I started with. And so I would bring, if anything, it taught me how to clean up a wave file to then
Yeah.
load into the MPC.
Gotcha.
Um, so yeah, that was super clunky. And then, there was a lot of those kind of fly by night internet
Yeah.
programs that I used.
Yeah. And so when you were looking for samples, this were I mean, I guess when you started, it was quite easy to get samples online. But were you doing any of the traditional digging for samples too, as well, at record
Yeah.
shops?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that was
Okay.
a big thing with Reconstructa, and we had another homie named DJ Schooly who was like more established than both of us, but there was a really unknown record spot in Rockford, Illinois that we used to, it was only 30 minutes away, so we would drive down there, called Toad Hall. And it was just like 10 warehouses full of records, and we would just go.
Oh, dang.
It was like crazy, and they were not organized. They were just like piles of records everywhere. But they would just let you hang out there all day, and so we would just
Oh,
listen to
man.
stuff, and we would bring home stuff, and then try to sample it, and that definitely was like a huge point of pride in the beginning. Was just like find the most obscure thing,
That's right.
like
Oh,
yeah. So that's how it started. But then there some things only exist as a digital copy.
yeah.
Um, so you would find some stuff on YouTube, or like blogging was huge at that point, so there was always people posting old unreleased and hard to
Right.
find albums. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's become quite easier. And that little spot that you used to go to in Illinois, they actually let you play the record to before you bought it.
Yeah, they had like two or three turntables, like a station in the middle of the building, and you could walk out there, and
Oh
the
man,
equipment was pretty busted, but you could like listen to it and be like, do I want this? Yeah, it was a
potential.
type
Yeah.
of yeah, it was a like I remember you could when you took the records to the counter, they just kind of made up a price. There was no prices.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You would just hand them a stack of records, and they'd be like $20, and I was like, and then it'd be like 15, and they're like, all right, that's fine.
I need a place like that. And I remember like the spots I used to go to, we couldn't even play them. You would just have to pick up the record based on the cover, right? On
Oh
how
yeah.
ill the cover was. So that's awesome, man. Does that place still exist, or probably not? Huh?
No, well, I think it does. When I checked a few years ago, because it's I haven't been out there in a long time, but I think the owners eventually died, or like their family
Yeah.
took over. Like it got rebranded, and was like it looks like it was like a little more professional now.
Yeah.
So it does still exist, but I don't know. I'm sure it's like
Yeah.
they like modernized it a little bit.
Yeah.
Um,
They got smart with the prices too, I'm sure.
yeah, I'm sure their kids were like, as soon as y'all die, I'm gonna make this for a legit business.
Oh man, well, hey, that was a cool story. Very instrumental in you becoming a producer. Super cool, man. Hey, well, what are you using now for beat making? Still the MPC?
Well, kind of. I have a machine studio, which is this. The interface is pretty similar, but
Okay.
um, yeah, machine studio and Logic. I still use Logic to kind of
Nice.
layer things out. Um, so it's almost like I use the same methods. It's just newer programs.
Okay. Nice. Well, hey man, how did you get your producer name? What's the story behind that?
Yeah, there's a few stories to that, but so my real name is Jonas. Uh, but when I was growing up, no one could read that correctly, so they would often read it as Jones, which was irritating, but also became a joke with me and my brother. Um, and I remember one of my favorite MCs growing up was Method Man, and
Yeah,
he had a song in one of his big hits, "I'll Be There with You" with Mary J.
I
Blige.
gotta love Jones
Yeah,
for your
so
body and your skin tone. Oh man,
yeah,
that's crazy.
exactly. So when I heard him say that, I was just like, finally, there's a cool way of incorporating the mistake of Jones into something. Um, and then I
Oh,
started
fun.
hearing that phrase "Love Jones" all the time. There was a
Right.
movie called Love Jones.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So like it was just like that phrase uh was a tie-in for a lot of different things. So I was and at the time no one was using it. So I was just like, I'm gonna try to leap on this.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool, man. I like that. And I thought there might have been some connection, but I wasn't sure. But I love the Method Man reference, man. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's one of his famous lines. So crazy.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's I used to use that as like a little drop in the beginning of my sets. Like it took me a while to find like an acapella chunk of that where the music wasn't
Oh,
behind
sure.
it, but I would just try to use that as my producer tag sometimes, but that's changed
Yeah.
over the years.
Oh man. Well, hey, in the current music scene, man, who you really digging? Who you like? Who do you enjoy listening to?
Um that one's kind of all over the place too. I mean,
Sure.
I think I always have my ear to like what's being new, in the hip hop scene, but like I end up listening to a lot of like recently, like UK R&B, UK pop stuff. Um,
Okay.
because they seem to be on a little like their retro wave is it seems like it's flourishing over there. Like they're trying to bring back like early jungle music and stuff like that. Like they feel like more experimental than a lot of American stuff right now. Um,
Okay.
but like Nia Archives and Pip Millette are like two more experimental R&B folks that I listen to.
Oh, I'll have to check them out, man.
And then America wise or US, JID. I liked his last album and just kind of his path that he's on. Mick
Okay.
Jenkins out of Chicago. I usually like
Mm,
his production. Not always a fan of the raps, but I do like his style. I like his kind of more laid back approach to rap.
okay.
Um, um, Makami. I don't know if you know his stuff. It's like super
No.
minimal. It's kind of like it's in that kind of drumless rap vibe that
Oh,
a lot of people are on in like the upper East Coast regions.
yeah.
Um, Apollo Brown is
Yeah.
like
Oh,
a
yeah.
producer whose stuff I check for all the time.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
Killer Mike, Run the Jewels, and then some other UK artists like Sampa the Great and Lil Sims.
man.
Yeah,
I gotta
yeah,
snag some of these names from you, man. I haven't heard some of these, man. Yeah.
yeah. I'll send it all to you if you want.
Yeah. Super dope, man. And so, I mentioned it earlier too, is that Portland is just a great, great scene for music. And so, do you want to just share a little bit about your perspective on the music scene in Portland? What's it like? And the opportunities just seem flourishing all the time. I see you're always performing all the time, and you're
Yeah,
out there just doing your thing. Can you share with us what the scene's like out there?
yeah. I mean, it is pretty dynamic. I know. I think coming from the East Coast, I would go to a lot of stuff like in DC it was called Beat Grinder, and then in New York it was Beat Society. But like when
Mm,
I moved out here, I was like, I want to make like I tried to look for something that might be like that, but there was really no beat scene.
okay.
Um, but I was just like, I'll just make my own. So I partnered with a friend of mine uh,
Nice.
that where we made up. We called it a beat happening, and it was an all producer, music producer, and DJ showcase.
Okay.
Um, and that was only a few years into being here. I mean, I would go out and support stuff, but like that itself, I mean, we just literally celebrated the 7 year anniversary yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, but that kind of being that integral in the kind of curating of shows and discovering artists, it helps me stay tapped in. But
Yeah.
um, and then through those efforts, I get a lot of opportunities to perform. So
Yeah.
um, it's a lot of cross referential stuff. But yeah, there's a few hip hop showcases out here. The music scene is really active. There's a lot of venues. It was a lot more
Yeah.
popping before the pandemic, like everything else. But
Sure.
we've had to kind of reimagine spaces and like
Like that.
use coffee shops and stuff like that to throw shows in.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Anything outside of Portland too, or is it just really central to Portland?
yeah, there's a few spots in like Eugene, that like the college
Yeah.
towns in
Yeah.
the
Oh,
state.
that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean touring musicians, there's all kinds of like spots between here and LA that people usually stop at. Um,
Yeah.
between like Seattle and LA, there's a lot of stops along the way in college towns and stuff like that. So
Yeah. Oh man, fascinating. Yeah, I've seen even in the next couple of weeks, I saw like Project Load will be doing a show out in Portland,
yeah,
I think Fly Anakin is going out there too as well. So yeah,
yeah,
just super dope, man. Well, with that, I wanted to just dive into some of your work, man. So I wanted to take it back all the way to the start. You mentioned 2010 was the
yeah.
start of when you actually started putting projects out, and so let's start with the Dust Up. So was that your first official album as Love Jones?
Yeah, it was, and it was wild to like go back because after you asked me about that, I like went back and looked it up myself because I had no one ever asked me about that album.
Oh man.
Uh,
Uh huh.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
I love going back to that first one. So yeah, you want to talk to me about the idea in your head when you were putting that together, and it had to be. Was it stressful since this was like, hey, this is my first project, and what was going on when you did that?
yeah. I mean, I think what inspired that was a few things. I had been making stuff like so. The Reconstructed was a DJ and producer for this group called Break Bread at the time.
Mhm.
And I used to go on like mini regional tours with them and like uh, DJ for them, and that I would queue up their music and just kind of stand on stage with them and stuff.
Yeah,
Um, but after doing that for a while, I was like, I want to make my own. Like there are songs that I want to make, not even with MCs. I was just like, I just have ideas for stuff. So I
okay.
had been slowly making them for a while. And I used to, the blog era was was huge for me, but there was specifically a blog called Strictly Beats, um, that was like beat tapes from all over the world,
Nice.
from like, no, every once in a while you'd see a familiar name, but it was mostly just obscure people from all over the world. So I was just like, that was inspiring for me, and I was like, let me use my background as a designer and artist and stuff to like make an album, put together like 10 songs. Like I always say this is like Illmatic, like how short it was my inspiration for the first one. Is just keep it like 10 to 11 songs,
I
no
like it.
fuss, just put it out, and see what happens. I made it free so I could make sure that if anybody actually liked it, they could download it and take it.
Yeah,
Uh, Um, and then put it on Strictly Beats, and just kind of like let it circulate on the internet, because the biggest curiosity for me was like, without rappers on it, will anyone listen to this?
ah, yeah,
Especially from an unknown artist. So I tried to make it accessible as possible, and then
yeah,
just put it out, because I was like, if some like my logic was like, somebody out there will like this. Like it
yeah.
doesn't have to be even
This
my
guy right
friends or
here, man.
family. Yeah, I mean, but that
Yeah,
was the fun of like when I on that blog, it was just like everybody on here is just throwing stuff out into the wild and seeing what happens.
yeah,
So I was like, let me see what happens, and I like emailed them,
yeah,
they posted it, and it kind of found a life of its own.
yeah.
And
I didn't discover that album until 2019. So it
oh
was,
wow.
yeah. So that's when I first learned about you, was probably at the start of maybe COVID,
Oh
right? And
yeah.
then yeah, I took a big break from rapping, and then then just did a song, and then just kind of sparked the wildfire again. And so I was just always looking for stuff to freestyle to. And so that album, it's got a beat on there. The had money, got money, need money is all one of my like list of rhymes that I freestyle with. And so yeah, so I mean, it's just an excellent point that you bring up, though. It's like, hey, you did that, and you had no idea that 9 years later that like I'm sure a lot of people were listening to it, but I didn't find it till 9 years later, and I freaking love that album, man. So it's
No, that's
fascinating.
great. Well, it's funny you mentioned during COVID too, because I remember during COVID, like when streaming first came along, like Spotify and all that stuff, I only put albums I had just made on there. I didn't think about like, I was like, who's listening to the old catalog? I don't know. So I just put like new releases on there. And I remember during
Yep.
the pandemic, this kid from New York messaged me on Instagram and was like, "Hey, how come your old albums aren't on streaming?" And I was like,
Yeah, you
and I
good
was
point.
like, I was like, honestly, I didn't think anyone listened to them. So because of his request, I put all my back catalog except one album that kept getting like the sample. There was just issues with the sample on one of the songs, so I couldn't get it to
Okay.
upload. Um, but everything else was on there, so it's cool to hear that actually like spread out into the world after that. Because I was like,
Yeah.
well, I did this just because this one kid asked, but
Yeah. Well, thanks to that one kid, man. Yeah, and you had a busy year, man. You also put out Flurries and Flourishes, which that one too, man. Just I love soulful sounding music in general, and those are the kind of beats I like to rhyme over. So that one I really really enjoyed, and the Still Falling and Keep Thinking tracks were the ones that I really enjoyed a lot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's so fun to hear that stuff though, because I remember someone else. Uh, I was on a someone interviewed me years ago and asked me about that Still Fallen track and knew the sample, and I was like, wow. And it's not like it was crazy obscure, but I was like,
Yeah.
no, I didn't think there was enough on there to be recognizable, but he knew it right
Oh,
away.
he
So
knew the sample though, huh? Oh
yeah.
man. Okay.
uh, but it was still like it's just I don't know. I mean, it's part of why I put him out there too. It's just like I know because I'm not a rapper. Like I've never tried. I've like wrote a hook for one person once, but it was all like I didn't rap it. I just wrote it, gave it to them. Uh, but I think like a rapper, so I try to make my stuff like I put
Yeah.
pauses and breaks and stuff in there
Yeah.
when it might make sense. But I try to. It's that kind of inspiration to freestyle that I think about when I'm making it.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And it's definitely your music is definitely rideable too, man. And just it's great, man. I love the mood and again, I just love the soulful sound that it brings, man.
When you said it's good to ride around to, like that's actually part of the reason it was created was because I used to. Uh, it's for long commutes. I used to have to ride the train or the bus or
Oh,
something,
wow.
and I always was like, I want something to listen to while I'm on this trip,
Yeah.
and so I would just make stuff for myself to listen to uh,
Yeah.
on these long trips. And so I was
Yeah.
just like, and then it just kind of unfolded from there.
Yeah, and early in that time too, at the start, was it mostly just producing beats and getting instrumental albums out, or were you actually working with other rappers too and producing their music?
Yeah, well, it was funny because I was for me it was just beats. I was just like I'm just gonna
Okay.
make all these beats and put them out there. But occasionally I would hear or see a rapper who I'm like, oh, I really like what you're doing. If you like
Yeah.
anything of what I'm doing, I'll just give it to you. Um, and some of them were local, but one of them who I'm still friends with her to this day, but like Ruby Ibarra, I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah, from Beat Rock Music. Did you
Yeah,
produce for her too?
I produced 2 tracks for her on her first mixtape.
Circa 91.
Yeah, no, she had an album called Lost in Translation before that.
Oh,
It
I
before she signed to
crazy.
Beat Rock. Yeah.
Oh man, I
Um,
gotta look up. Do you have copies of the song? I would just love to hear it. I didn't. Yeah.
yeah, I'll
Oh,
send
that's
them to you after this. But yeah, I saw a video of her freestyling to Mad Ism by Channel Live,
from
like the
Channel Live.
instrumental. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the internet back then, 2011 maybe 2010.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh man, she's dope, and she like multilingual, and she's like
Yep.
rapping to a style that feels like it's kind of close to mine. So I reached out to her and I was like, I sent her all the stuff I had made. I was like, if you like any of these, please use them. And
That
she
is
ended
crazy, man.
up, yeah, she got her and Bamboo on one song, and then just her solo on another. But there's still like points of pride. And she came back. She was in Portland a few years ago,
Okay.
and we hadn't seen each other in like 7 years. And then by then she's like blown up and all over the place.
Yeah.
But
Oh, I love these crazy stories, man. Like the behind the scenes. That's
yeah,
wild.
no, it was really wild because when I knew she was coming, I was like, hey, I'll DJ for you, um, and that way I can queue up the songs for you as kind of a full circle moment. And she was down with it. So um, yeah, that was a dope and like really prolific jump off from reaching out to MCs, but a lot of it since not as frequent. Like it's what happens now is I'll put out beats,
Yep.
and will record a rap to it and then send it back to me and be like, "Can I put this out?" So I
Ah, I
didn't,
got
and I'm like, most of the time, they fit the vibe of the song really well, and so I'm like, yeah,
you. Yeah.
let's do it.
Okay. Oh, super cool, man. Well, you're not short of beats in your catalog for sure, man.
Yeah,
So
no,
much.
like if somebody's like, send me some stuff, I'm like, I need more direction because I have like hundreds of things I could send you. So
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
are you still that prolific? I mean, it seems like it, man, that you're knocking them out, man.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, the pandemic, I kind of called it like a sabbatical, not a sabbatical, like a creative residency because I was just like stuck at home with my beat
Yeah.
machine. And so I was just like, I'm gonna make, the whole world felt like we were all gonna die. So I was like, I'm gonna make all the beats in the world and put them all out. And so I just made stuff every day, and I still do that. I mean, it's still kind of a method of decompressing my day-to-day
Yeah.
activities. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's yeah, working on stuff constantly.
Yeah, I love it, man. And then in 2019 was another album that I really enjoyed, The Messengers.
Oh
And I
yeah.
told you even before that, we locked in this interview that City Life was one that's always on my playlist, man. And just, man, just one that I really enjoyed. And so, what was that? Any thought behind that project and what was going on when you put that together?
Yeah, that one was fun because I like there was if you listen to all the albums, I always kind of put some audio intros,
Yep.
usually stand-up comedy or like from a speech or an interview or something to like lead into the track to kind of set the mood for stuff.
Yeah.
And then I realized at some point that I had almost a whole album of just people talking as the intro to all the songs. And I
Yeah.
was like, rather than be like, oh, I need to cut some of these, I was just like, let me build the theme of the album around that.
Right.
And the painting on the cover is a friend of mine named Jeremy Okai Davis, and
Okay.
I saw that painting of Art Blakey,
Oh
where it's
man,
like
and
chopped
the
up.
Messengers. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so I was just like, oh, there's so many ties in with this, like Art Blakey and the Messengers. There's
Yeah.
all these
Oh
people that
man.
kind of giving messages at the intro to the song. So I was like, and it was like distorted enough that it was like not a clear, like you'd have to really be familiar with that cover because he used different colors and kind of put a
Yeah.
chop in the middle of it. So there was just a bunch of like tie-ins with that and then the audio snippets. So it was a fun thing to put together and like use as a way to weave it all together.
Oh man, how cool, man! And I was going to ask you. So that's good that you told me your buddy did the art, and I thought I heard you say at the beginning of this interview that you a graphic designer or you dabble with it in a little bit.
Yeah, my background is probably answering one of your later questions already, but yeah, my background is in visual art and graphic
Okay.
design.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why all your stuff is dope, man. So even yeah, like the you do all the flyers that you post to as well, and oh
Yeah.
man, yeah, really good presentation, man. And so yeah,
Yeah,
you're a walking
that's
statement,
been
man.
yeah, I mean that was part of the logic in making all of these things too is like I know how to brand my I know how to excuse me, my voice is going out. Excuse me. Um I know from working in different capacities how to brand myself and like because Love Jones is like there are other usages of it out there. I was like, let me create an icon that I can put on everything so that if anyone questions whether or not this is me, they can tell from the logo.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
Um yeah, so then and then just, using my and not having to check with anybody about the album art because I'm making it all myself. So I'm like, that really speeds things up. I don't have to be like,
Yes.
hey, I don't have to commission anyone. I don't have to like wait for or like go over the design with somebody. I'm just like, no, 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 I got it. I'll do it.
I like that. Yeah, and I think it's the block lettering of the way that you put Love Jones together, just really catchy, man. I enjoy it, man. I dig
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Is Night Lights? Is that your latest release then from late 2023?
Yeah, that was from like last October, but yeah. Um
Yep.
yeah, and that just, continues the path of beat tapes and, mellow vibes and all that stuff. But
Yeah, yeah. Dollar Slice ain't done yet. Were my favorite tracks on that album. Just great, man.
nice.
Great,
Thank
great
you.
music, man. So yeah, that one is now starting to get spinning in my playlist. But yeah, I was a big fan of your older work. And so, do you ever put physical copies out of of your albums out, or is it just all digital releases?
No, it is. It's funny. I've never pressed up anything for any of them, but one of the things that I'm working on now is I opened for a lot of people with my beat sets because it's just like,
Okay.
opened for an artist here in town called Salt Fiend. He had a 7-inch release party, and
Nice.
the guy who runs the record label that released his 7-inch was there, heard my beat set, and then was like, "Hey, would you want to put out a physical of an
Sick.
album, of a future album?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've never done that." So, uh,
Nice.
eventually, sometime maybe this year,
Okay.
we'll finish up the first physical. I'm gonna try to put like a first 12-inch vinyl out.
Oh,
Um,
fantastic.
yeah, and I've been featured on some cassette tapes, but not mine. I've never like actually made a physical item, which is hilarious. I've made a bunch of merch, but I've never actually made music merch.
Dude, well, vinyl is exciting, man. Oh man, I just know that's gonna be a very proud moment for you when you have that vinyl in hand. And yeah, vinyl's exciting, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it's wild to be this far in and be like, oh, I don't have any. It's all digital, like
yeah.
no cassette
Oh,
tapes or anything.
yeah, and so it's funny you mentioned that too. And as I talk to like the younger generation, I mean, that's the way that they're doing it now. And I just happen to be just the old guy that loved, I remember slanging my tapes and stuff. And so
Oh
I
yeah,
just like having the physical copy. But yeah, no, it's I mean, either way you do it, man, good. But yeah, vinyl, man, it's gonna be exciting, definitely.
yeah. There was when I first started, I remember giving people like burned CDs of beats.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But like definitely it, which is funny now because that's how everyone did it. But now when I meet somebody who has a burned CD that they're trying to sell with just like Sharpie scribbled on it, I'm like, now it now this
Yeah.
looks suspect. Like now I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even have a.
Is there anything on the CD? Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're a branding guy too, so yeah, very important, right?
Yeah, no,
Uh,
that's happened a few times where people stop me and they're like, "Hey, you want to buy this?" I'm like, "Do you need a designer? Because I want to help you." I was like, "If this is music is any good, you need better branding."
that's cool. That's cool. Here's my card. Oh, that's awesome. Well, that you definitely be a plus, man. Well, hey, man, it's been 14 years that since you've been making music, and so what inspires you? What continues to drive you to make music? What's the motivation?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, but like a
Yeah,
lot of music making is for me kind of like decompressing the day, like
yeah,
whether it was stressful or not, but it's like, you know, the coming down from the commute to and from work, all the things that you had to deal with, maybe something you heard that day or you're angry or mad or whatever. It's just like when I get home, I just try to channel all that into, a quick beat, a minute and a half, just try to form an idea around it.
yeah,
Um, and I think having it be like almost a pretty much a daily practice is why it ends up being so much stuff, is because I'm like, even if I don't finish it in that one day, I at least start something.
okay,
So yeah, so it's that, and that kind of that kind of release of creativity is yeah, I never get tired. I never get removed from it, unless I'm on vacation. Then I just
sure,
end up like thinking about it. But
yeah,
yeah, it's pretty much a daily, uh, life inspires it, I guess.
nice, man. Well said. And if you were asked to describe the kind of music you make, uh, what would you say?
Yeah, I think about. I was. Let me think. You mentioned like mellow, soulful, kind of like introspective and sometimes grimy. I don't know. Like that's what I was like. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, that's probably the best version of it. It's just like it's a balance of like, mellow, introspective, soulful vibes.
yeah. Hey, well said, man. I like that. Hey, you're a busy working man. You got to commute on both sides of your day. You make music. You're out there performing. What do you like to do for fun outside of that?
Yeah, I mean, part of that when when I was saying my background is in visual arts, so I still support the art community. I go to a lot of
Okay.
museum shows and art galleries and stuff like that.
Nice.
I've played a few, like we call them like drink and draws, where I'll come and play beats and people will just draw in the room, which is
Oh, dope.
so it's like a different type of music event. But yeah,
Yeah.
art galleries, traveling used to be huge. I mean, it still is, but I haven't done as much since the pandemic happened.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and then occasional dance performances. I know a bunch of people that do. Like my partner does flamenco dancing, and so I'll go to her performances. Um, a
Nice.
lot of like street dance and stuff like that. So yeah, just trying to always feed the creative mind.
All right, man. That sounds fun. And I really do enjoy that you're active and love watching you just flourish in the scene. So that's fun. Awesome, man. All right. So with that, what is a little known but fun fact about yourself? What's something that nobody would expect from you?
Um, hmm. Probably, I mean, the visual art stuff just doesn't come up that much. I think a lot of
Okay.
people underestimate. Like I have an MFA in it. Like I went to school to study visual
Oh,
arts and printmaking. Yeah,
nice.
like I've followed it to its full pursuit. Like I really tied in the art side of things. So it's always, it's like a constant, whether it shows up through the music or through the packaging or the kind of branding and stuff. But it feels like a secret weapon sometimes because, like you said,
Yeah.
like it it helps in so many facets of being an artist. When to have those skills,
Okay.
um, and it doesn't present much. Like people kind of take it for granted, the design and kind of presentation side of being an artist too. So
Okay.
that's probably like the
Nice, man. Yeah,
lesser
indeed.
known thing.
Yeah, yeah, and just to understand the concept of branding too is it's a special skill as well. So super cool. Yeah, and you mentioned earlier you're ethnically Puerto Rican. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, y'all got some of the best food in the world, but what is your favorite food? What's your food palette like? What's your choice
uh,
cuisine?
yeah, I mean, it kind of stays meat and rice combos in all cultures, but it's like, yeah, lots of Latin dishes, especially when
Yeah.
I was in New York. I lived like near I mean, it's really anything like rice and meat, any
Yeah.
combo of that.
It's the perfect
Yeah,
combo, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like, any culture I can navigate as long as they have rice and meat. Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. All right, let's see what your humor is like. You said your dad likes stand up, but what's the best comedy movie of all time?
Oh man, best comedy movie. Wow, that's a curveball.
Yeah.
Best comedy movie. Huh. Man, I watch a lot of comic stuff too. Coming to America, I think the original.
Oh, dude, that's my favorite comedy movie, man. Well done, man.
The
That's the
the
greatest.
original one, yeah. That
Yeah.
was
Oh
like,
man,
it
dude,
just
that is
reminded me of
funny.
like, yeah, because I think about like, what do I quote it all the time. It was
Yes.
like, it's one of these, it's like a perfect balance of like people being like New York mean, and
Yeah.
then someone who's like doesn't even catch it. They're just like, they just try to navigate who they are, but the world
Yeah.
is being mean to them. And I was just like, I don't know. It just felt, it makes me laugh to this day. I still
Yeah.
quote it.
Oh, yeah, it's a genius movie, man. I love it. And same, I can quote it from start to finish. And I'm not a hater, man. I like the second movie too, man. I mean, obviously it wasn't the first, but I thought it was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was okay, but I think for me, the like, it really formed. helped inform my sense of humor when I was growing up to be like,
For
which
for
yeah,
sure.
my dad was a big Eddie Murphy fan, and so like everything we watched, but that one stuck out to me mostly because we had been to New York, and I always thought everyone was so mean there, but it was like hilarious mean to
Yeah.
me. They're like they're like so mean that it's unnecessary, and you're just like, I don't know. That movie captured it.
Okay. All right. This question is for a true Oregon head. If you had your choice, is it Voodoo Donuts or Blue Star Donuts?
Blue Star, I think they're a lot.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're a lot more expensive, but I like their dough a lot better.
Okay. I haven't given them I've probably tried Voodoo more often than Blue Star, so I'll have to give Blue Star a shot next time.
Yeah,
Okay.
that like plain voodoo, plain glazed are fine. Like a lot of people bring them to meetings, but I like the. It sounds so snotty to say, but like I like the brioche crust on the Blue Star donuts. It just feels soft, and I always feel like I'm gonna eat too many of them.
Oh man, good man. So you are a true Oregon head, man. You were able to break that down nicely. Hey, with that, are there any special projects that you want to tell us about before we close this dope interview out?
Yeah, I mean the vinyl project for sure. I don't know what it's gonna be yet. It's kind of a different kind of math equation for me because trying to curate an album that fits on a piece of vinyl is a different experience. So
Yeah.
trying to trying to cook that up and that it's exciting, but it's it's like a lot of mental gymnastics to figure out what I want to put on there because it's just
Okay.
gonna live forever as like the kind of business card. So
Yeah.
um
Oh man.
and then there's a few other projects. I've done one collaboration with a friend, Free Tillman in the past. We did a split tape called Free Love.
Okay.
Um and we're working on a
I
fall.
just heard about him. He's a local guy, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's like moved away from music a little bit and mostly into stand-up comedy, oddly enough.
Oh,
Uh
crazy.
yeah, and so he's like flourishing as a comedian now, but I met him as a musician. So like we have whenever he has lulls in his touring, he works on music, and so I was like, yeah, let's put him out as a beat tape. So we're
Dope.
working on the follow up to that. And then I have another project that's been in the works for a long time with a friend of mine who's like he's more of like a pop electronic producer.
Okay.
Um, but he's like a master of like all these other genres. Um, and we a lot of times I'll just bring him a beat and then he can add live instruments on top of it.
Okay.
Um, so we've been working on that slowly over the last year and a half or so. But so I'm hoping we'll finish it up this year sometime. So
All right.
yeah, and then always crafting beat tapes, whether I'm gonna put them out on the vinyl or not. But those are always cooking too. So
So, well, 2024 sounds very exciting. And again, just thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about your musical journey. Just again, yeah, I love all your older stuff, and it's exciting to see that you got a bunch of newer stuff coming out. I look forward to hearing all those releases. But yeah, thank you for your time. Is there anyone?